And there's nothing we love more than a play on words. So with Dan Graziano at the Combine in Indy, let's go through the Grazianos. Dan, what is the very latest on Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, I like that picture. Listen, Matthew Stafford and the Rams are still, discussing can they work something out with the contract, but he's also been talking to other teams about what a contract would look like if the Rams traded him there. The Giants are the most prominent one. I think the Giants would like to see how this thing resolves itself before moving on to other options. And the hope from the Rams, from Stafford, and from interested teams is that it can be done relatively soon. Another team that's probably going to look to bring in a veteran quarterback, maybe not at this level this offseason, is the Colts. Their GM, Chris Ballard, said yesterday that whoever they bring in will be in an open competition for the starting job with Anthony Richardson, who was their first-round pick 2 years ago, but has had trouble staying on the field and has had performance issues when he's been on the field. So interesting to see which way the Colts go, what level of player they add to this quarterback mix, and what that means for the future of Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, their GM Omar Khan saying yesterday that they've had talks with the representatives for both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, the two quarterbacks they had on their roster this past year, both unrestricted free agents. The Steelers, I think, would like to bring one of them back. Which one remains to be seen. That could come down to how the contract talks go, what the expectations are from the players, and which, if they have a choice, which one they like working with better last year. But it looks more likely that Russell Wilson or Justin Fields will be back in Pittsburgh as the starter this year.
Boy, I hate that approach. And I understand that you just said it, they didn't just say it. But the idea that they're going to make this decision when they're a team that for the last, whatever it is, almost a decade, it feels like, have struggled at the quarterback position, and that's been their glaring weakness and has kept them from doing the things that the Steeler fans and the Steeler organization are accustomed to, that, well, we'll see which one we can work out a contract with and all that. I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand, Hasselbeck. Right, Graziano? I mean, let me get Timmy in on that.
I think it's fair. You want to be an elite team. They're an elite franchise in the NFL. They've got an elite defense.
Are they, no matter what happens, are they elite if they bring back Russell Wilson next year?
No, I think there's absolutely a ceiling on them. You saw it last year.
Why are we even having this conversation? I don't understand.
I don't know. I don't either. That's why, look, I would be very interested in Matthew Stafford. Stafford, I think, would play well there. I think he'd play really well there with how they're built, the things they want to do, who they are on defense. I think Stafford would be a massive upgrade at the position.
Dan, I didn't mean to yell at you. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I think the thing to understand about the Steelers, I don't get how anybody looks at the Steelers and thinks they're a quarterback away. They need help at wide receiver. They need to replace Najee Harris and probably upgrade at running back at that position. They have work to do on their offensive line where they have some free agency issues to settle. So the Steelers, remember, last year they got Russell Wilson on a minimum salary deal after the Broncos cut him, and they traded a late-round pick for Justin Fields. So they went the bargain route last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to do something similar this year, considering how many other holes they have to fill so that whoever does end up being the quarterback has a better chance to succeed.
Listen, I don't dispute the things that Dan just said about the holes that the Pittsburgh Steelers have, but also remember this. Matthew Stafford, throughout his whole career, has played with a top 10 defense one time.
Yeah.
One time. He's never had a defense to back him up. This Pittsburgh scenario would absolutely play in his favor. He would elevate guys around him. Do they need other pieces? Sure, you can put other pieces around, but Matthew Stafford has never had a defense. Pittsburgh has a defense. And Pittsburgh, you can't run him back with this. We've seen the Russell Wilson. We've seen the Justin Fields. What is that going to do in the AFC North? Nothing.
The Rams aren't a playoff team without Matthew Stafford. They're not. Like, you think about the holes on that team or the kind of the spots where they need to be better. Like, the impact Matthew Stafford would have on the Steelers, I think would be crazy.
Yeah.
That's an immense improvement. I think would drastically change that team.
Unless you should wonder how real the possibility of Stafford leaving the Rams is, I want to play you some soundbite here from Sean McVay, so the outstanding young coach of the Los Angeles Rams. Bear in mind, I told you earlier this morning, my friend Nick Kahn always says, when you ask someone how they're doing, the more words it takes them to respond, the worse they're doing. Keep that in mind, and you listen to Sean McVay talk about where things stand between him and Stafford.
There's no dispute, and let's not get it twisted in regards to anybody wanting him to be our quarterback. Now, there's layers to it. We had something in mind, he had something in mind, and nobody was right or wrong. And then ultimately you're saying, hey, there's a ton of interest because this guy's an incredible player. he and I have had great dialogue throughout this process. I know where we want it to be able to end up, but these decisions aren't made in a vacuum, and that's kind of the challenging part about it. But love this guy, and he's been incredible for us.
Boy, that was a lot of words, right? I mean, that is a lot of words. There's layers to this. He's got something in mind. No one's right. No one's wrong. Of course there's interest. These things don't happen in a vacuum. I'm not suggesting that there's a problem with the relationship between McVay and Stafford. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I mean. What I'm suggesting is that's a coach who sounds like he thinks there's a real chance Matthew Stafford isn't coming back, which is why this conversation is very worth having, whether it is Pittsburgh. And I wanted to put the note in there on Anthony Richardson as well, because Graziano, that's what they should do. The Colts, they need to save their job. The leadership of the Colts need to save their jobs. They missed on Anthony Richardson. Everyone knew it at the time. It was a ridiculous decision to draft him and start him immediately the way they did. Everyone knew it wouldn't work except them. The one chance they have to save themselves is to bring him in, let him play in a dome in a winnable division. I'm not suggesting it's what I expect to happen, but I actually think that one would make a lot of sense. What do you think of that, Graziano?
I don't think the Colts are ready to give up on Anthony Richardson. And I think, this regime that drafted him, if they do give up on him, that's probably dangerous for their job security as well, because you could say, well, what happened? You bet everything on this guy and he didn't work out. Anybody can go trade for a veteran. So I think if the Colts bring in a veteran, I think they will, it would be more, somebody who would compete with Anthony Richardson, maybe push him, maybe play if and when he gets hurt. As opposed to somebody who would just sort of take the reins like a Matthew Stafford. I hear you. You're not wrong. I'm just trying to tell you where I think their mindset is.
The 49ers drafted Trey Lance number 3 overall.
I think this is where it's interesting. You kind of are half admitting you're wrong when you bring in someone to compete.
Right.
Like you're admitting that you're wrong because you're competing with that guy, but you're also not like you're not solving your problem. Truthfully, if you're even saying, look, we're open to a competition, you might as well just fix the problem and admit your mistake, which is why Stafford makes more sense than somebody that's on like a 1 year, like, hey, prove you can be a starter deal to actually compete with Richardson. Like you're admitting you got it wrong. You might as well fully admit that you were wrong.
You're saying I'm right?
Yeah.
Yes, you are right.
I didn't see that coming at all. Not for 1 minute. D. Wood, final word.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Rip it off.
Rip the Band-Aid off. You like Chris Ballard and company have been in the building every day watching Anthony Richardson, not only the games, the practice, every little thing that you need to evaluate to see if this guy's going to be a franchise quarterback. You've had 2 years. You've seen it. Like, this whole competition stuff, it's rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Because the other alternative is you're saying, well, we're going to go out and get a quarterback, but not a very good one. Like, that's really not a good strategy.
You're right.
If you're going to go get a quarterback, go get a really good one. Speaking of really good ones, let's get up.
Móc tiếp những mũi tiếp theo à? Tiếp tục cứ lần lượt như này là được nhá. Bây giờ mình sẽ móc tiếp những mũi nữa nha mọi người. Rồi móc tiếp nữa. Cứ lặp đi lặp lại cho đến hết. Mình tiếp tục mình móc nhé. Mũi tiếp theo này. Tiếp tục. Rồi móc tiếp nữa nhé. Cứ móc lần lượt từng mũi từng mũi. Rồi mũi tiếp theo đây. Mũi tiếp. Mũi tiếp nha. Lặp đi lặp lại từng mũi một này. Tiếp tục móc. Rồi bây giờ móc tiếp nữa, mọi người cứ luân phiên cho mình. Rồi bây giờ móc nốt nhé. Mũi tiếp nữa này. Rồi mũi nữa nhá. Mọi người cứ làm luân phiên cho đến hết. Rồi bây giờ nối xuống, siết dây. Đấy, mình được cái phần hình tròn như này. Mình sẽ làm cái tấm lót cốc hình tròn nhá. Mọi người nếu mà thích hình vuông, hình tam giác, hình chữ nhật gì đó thì làm cũng được nhá. Rồi bây giờ mình sẽ móc tiếp hàng tiếp theo này. Mình dùng cái màu đỏ nhé. Rồi, sau đó mình siết dây, siết cái phần dây màu trắng lại. Rồi móc tiếp này. Cái hàng này thì mình sẽ móc những cái mũi nửa kép nhé mọi người. Móc lần lượt từng mũi một. Rồi bây giờ sẽ móc tiếp này. Mọi người móc cứ 2 mũi lẻ thì lại móc 1 mũi đôi nhé. Rồi móc tiếp nữa này. Tiếp tục móc những mũi tiếp theo nhé. Tiếp tục móc xuống. Tiếp tục. Mọi người cứ móc lần lượt như này là được. Mình móc tiếp nhé. Gỡ thêm len để sử dụng. Bây giờ móc tiếp nữa này. Mọi người móc lần lượt từng cái mũi màu đỏ này là được nhé.